YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Pro Bowl rosters announced. Everyone's talking snubs. Their favorite players are snubs. It's that time of the year. So today I got 5 mega snubs. These guys to me definitely should have made it. I also got a list of honorable mentions, borderline snubs. We're going to explain it all. A big problem with the Pro Bowl is obviously it's kind of a popularity contest. It's unfortunate, is what it is. But I don't really like how they got the position sorted out. Ends up only being 4 off-the-ball linebackers. The way they have outside linebackers off ball and edge rushers combined is kind of a mess. Another problem is, kind of the fans after the fact. They think this guy should have made it, this guy should have made it, but you have to remember, you have to take guys out. You can't just add to the Pro Bowl roster. And did you watch player A as much as you watch as player B? So you really shouldn't have a big list of snubs because you got to take players out who should not make it, So I only got 5 big ones here, but then I got a list of guys that are kind of borderline. We'll explain it all. Follow our Twitter, constant action there, talking about the NFL live updates, a lot going on. Link down below for that. Link down below for recent videos. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Be much appreciated. So we'll count from 5 to 1, and then we'll go over kind of the extra guys there, the rest of them. So number 5, I got an offensive tackle, ONeill from the Minnesota Vikings. Arguably the best right tackle in football this year, definitely up there. Known as a dominant run blocker. See, the Vikings have a very good running games because their offensive line. ONeill stands out in that category. On top of that, he hasn't allowed a pressure this year, so you see he's a dominant pass protector as well. I look at the NFC. I look at a guy, and there's some studs, obviously, that made it from the NFC. Guy like Tyron Smith, who in general is better than ONeill, but he's played just over 60% of snaps this year. I think that should factor in. I think what ONeill has done this year, just leads the way for a dominant run-blocking offense and doesn't allow pressures as well. I thought ONeill definitely should have been a lock to make it after what he's done. He was kind of borderline, right? When the Pro Bowl voting came out, he was kind of a borderline guy, but then he really took off after that. So I thought he should have made it, especially with other guys kind of playing less, unfortunately getting hurt. So he's number 5 for me. Number 4 is Demario Davis. It's a tough one going with an off-the-ball linebacker here because only 4 off-ball linebackers make it. Only 4. So I have to take somebody out, which is very hard to do. You look at the one guy people will argue, maybe Denzel Perryman, that's on the AFC side. What I would argue is Micah Parsons probably should have made it as an edge rusher, so that would open up one spot for a NFC linebacker. And I thought Demario Davis, right when the Pro Bowl voting came out, was he the top of the NFC linebackers? Then I would probably argue Devondre Campbell. You also got, we're going to talk about more linebackers after the top 5. There's a couple more NFC. We got NFC North linebackers actually to talk about. But I think as the season went on, I thought Demario Davis solidified himself as the top NFC actual off-ball linebacker. I know Micah Parsons is considered that at this time, but I would almost consider him as an edge rusher. But either or works. It makes sense. I'm not complaining about Parsons at all being in. He's up for Defensive Player of the Year, on top of going to be the Rookie of the Year as well. But Demario Davis is the guy of the Saints defense. You take him out, that great Saints defense isn't where it is. He's dominant in coverage. He's dominant in the blitzing game. He's racking up the tackles for loss. He is the guy of the Saints defense. So I thought he definitely should have made it, even though there's not a lot of room for off-ball linebackers here because only 4 make and only 2 from the NFC. Number 3, I'm going to go Cordarrelle Patterson. Definitely should have made it. Carried the Falcons this year for the most part. I know a guy like Russell Gage starting to pick it up. Matt Ryan, playing better when he's protected. But Cordarrelle Patterson, what he's done this year has been ridiculous. Like equally effective in the running game and the passing game, catching the ball, whether it's out of the backfield, downfield, touchdown machine. It's just kind of that game plan nightmare, for teams. And just what he's done for that team, what he's done and where he's taken his game at this point of his career, I definitely thought he should have made it. So he's number 3 on the mega snubs list here. You look at the running backs that made it, it's tough to take one out. But Kamara missing some games. I'm a huge Alvin Kamara guy, but Kamara missing some games. And then Patterson kind of playing Kamara's game where Kamara is so effective in running and catching the ball in the backfield. Maybe Patterson should have made it. in his plays. Kamara, obviously the much better player in general, but I thought Patterson was definitely deserving of making it as an offensive playmaker here. Number 2 was surprised not to see Jeffrey Simmons, defensive tackle of the Tennessee Titans, not make it. And it's a tricky one too, because who the hell are you going to take out of those AFC defensive tackles? Because they're all studs. They're all very, very good, and they're all big-name guys. But when I look at that, to this year, that's what the Pro Bowl is based off of. Jeffrey Simmons has been better than every single one of them. As good as those 3 guys are, Simmons has been better than those guys. So it doesn't really matter which one you choose. So Simmons taking on a lot of double teams, disrupting the run, collapsing pockets in the passing game, racking up the tackles for losses, the sacks. He's at 7.5 sacks for an interior guy. You kind of see him line up at a traditional D tackle spot, sometimes even a nose tackle spot. And again, just collapsing pockets is what he's done. You hear people around the league, executives, coaches, they rave about Jeffrey Simmons. They realize that everyone else is way too low on him. So, at least they maybe understand. And that's maybe where there's like a flaw in the voting. It's, a lot of it's fans and some of these media people that kind of focus on one team here and there and don't really know about the younger guys a whole bunch. So Jeffrey Simmons was a major snub. This guy definitely should have made it. I thought, even though there were some big-time studs at that position, especially in the AFC, I thought Simmons has been the best one. I thought it's him from the AFC, Aaron Donald from the NFC. I thought those are the best ones there from this year. I think people around the league would actually agree with me on that take that I just had. At number 1, got to go quarterback, got to go Matthew Stafford here. And the tricky part, and maybe my flaw here is, recent games are factoring in, which they should. But I know people didn't get their votes in last second. But I think, the people outside of the fans that vote, I think that definitely matters. They're kind of last second voters. But I think the problem here is Pro Bowl voting came out, and not too long after that, Matthew Stafford had maybe a 2-game stretch where he didn't play that well. He had a couple bad games in there for Matthew Stafford, not like terrible games, but for what we expect for him. He had a couple bad games. Maybe the third one in a row was just a decent game. And I think people, right after Pro Bowl voting came out, held that against him. And the way people talk, they act like he just had a half of a season where he was terrible, and that's just terrible. That's terrible. Not Matthew Stafford. He's been fantastic. You see him with the weapons, that offense, and the Rams team. Again, he's been lights out. Very, very productive through the air. It feels like he's been a little smarter, with the ball. I know he had just a couple games, not half of the season, and everybody has that. Tom Brady played bad last week, not saying Tom Brady shouldn't have made it. I think, the way Kyler Murray started was insane. And this is the MVP right here. So that's why he gets in, and what he can do, no one really could do. The way he scrambles, and you love him kind of being the underdog, the undersized guy, but end up missing games and not playing as well late. I would have Stafford ranked ahead of Kyler Murray for sure right now. Stafford starting to clutch up, win those big games, and be clutch within those games, make the big time plays within those games. So I thought, Stafford is a big-time snub. And then you factor in that a big piece of this is stats, and I'm not a fan of that, but stats seem to be everything for a lot of these voters. And he has the stats, so that's why it's a little confusing on how he didn't make it. So maybe people just don't like Stafford for some reason. It's hard to say that because I don't know what would be the reason. But, again, the chatter, the talk, you hear, people talk like he had – those 2 rough games he had there against the Titans and the 49ers, they act like it was like a half a year of terrible play, and that's just, for some reason, people talk like that, and that's just not even close to the case. It's kind of a shame here. It's a shame. So those are my 5 biggest snubs, and we got more I'm talking about right here. But the reason I did 5 is because you shouldn't have a big, long list of snubs because you have to take guys out. Most of those guys are very deserving. Some of the guys you'd have to take out are probably deserving. And I call these borderline snubs. These guys are deserving. They're playing at a Pro Bowl level. I think there's more than the roster playing at a Pro Bowl level. We're going to break it down now. I actually want to scroll down the list here. I want to talk about Justin Simmons for a second because Justin Simmons from the Broncos, free safety, that guy is a Pro Bowl player. Like, I almost wanted to put him into my top 5 because that guy deserves to be in the Pro Bowl. But there is a flaw with the Pro Bowl here, and there's only one free safety from each side, NFC and AFC. So you look at the AFC, it's Kevin Byard. So then it brings up the debate on should it be Kevin Byard or Justin Simmons. And I'm leaning more towards Kevin Byard based on his play for I think as of recently, I'd say Simmons is probably playing a little better, but majority of the year so far, they're both playing at an elite level, almost like an defensive player of the year type level. I'm going to lean more towards Byard, so I can't put him in the top 5 because I would have to take out Byard. I would have to take him out. So that's a big problem. I think that's a Pro Bowl voting problem. Like, why is 2 strong safeties and only 1 free safety from both sides? That's the tough part. I just kind of wish that Byard and Simmons, who are the hands down the 2 best safeties this year, I wish one was in the AFC, one was in the NFC, so I can just put both of them in, So that's the tough part there. Vita Vea is really tough too. It feels like a snub to me. It really does. It's more of the snub, not borderline snub, because this is a pure run stuffer, and that's why he doesn't make it. He doesn't get the flashy sacks, hits on the quarterback, and he does sometimes. He does it by collapsing the pocket, driving his man straight back into the quarterback. But he stops the run at an elite level, and what defenses, every defensive coach will tell you this, same thing. We need to be able to stop the run first. Obviously, it's very, very important to have great pass defense in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback and covering, but we have to be able to stop the run. So that's so important, and then having Vita Vea there, it's to me, he's a big-time snub. But then you go down the list, Javon Hargrave, for a guy that's been a nose tackle as well, like Vita Vea, and getting the pressure on quarterbacks he's been able to do. It's kind of rare. So I thought that was one. Devondre Campbell, I actually had him at number 1 linebacker in the league around that time when Pro Bowl voting came out. More time passed. He still played well. I thought some other linebackers have played better than him, but still has elevated that Packers defense and has really elevated his career, actually. But it's tough. And then, it ends up being NFC North linebackers right here. Eric Kendricks doing what he normally does, playing linebacker, inside linebacker at a high level, but he's adding that blitzing game to his game, career high in sacks. So I thought he's played fantastic. Roquan Smith, extremely consistent, lighting up again, tackling machine, pretty solid in coverage as well. They'll use him in a blitzing game here and there. So you see 3 stud linebackers, and the tough part, and you can throw Fred Warner in there as well. You can throw the Bucs inside linebacker. I wasn't going to sit here and just list off every linebacker, though, because that would be kind of defeating the purpose here of my points. But all these linebackers, the ones I just named as well, they are Pro Bowl caliber players. The problem is there are only 4 off-the-ball linebackers that make it, so really you have to sit down and choose your 4 that you think should make it, and then the rest really shouldn't be snubs for you. They can be borderline snubs maybe. So that's the tricky part, because these guys feel like Pro Bowl players, but I kind of went with Demario Davis with the guys that they kind of had, and factoring that Micah Parsons is considered an off-ball linebacker there, which is interesting. A.J. Terrell, been a lockdown corner this year, only in his 2nd year. He's been fantastic. It's tough to remove an NFC corner, but you definitely can argue Terrell in there for sure. Just feels like a Pro Bowl. We talked about Justin Simmons the second I got to this slide right here. So if you skip through that, circle back, argue he's an elite player, but the way that there's only 1 free safety, Kevin Byard in there, that's the tricky part. I talked more about that a little bit ago. Harold Landry, another Titans player, edge rusher. He's been extremely productive, and they even have him dropping coverage sometimes, but been getting after the quarterback. Pressure percentage is very high, all-time high for him. Hassan Reddick has been kind of a key piece. He has been a key piece of that Panthers defense. You can even throw Shaq Thompson in there too. Has been a crucial piece. They move those guys around a bit. Reddick, pre-snap adjustments is kind of what is the problem when it comes to Reddick for opposing offenses, where he's going to come from. Because he's actually listed as an outside linebacker, even though he's rushing the edge a lot. Brian Burns, who made it, very talented player, is more of a defensive end. So it's a little tricky when it comes to him. Maybe that's why he didn't get in. And Creed Humphrey, debatably, has been the best center in football. He's a rookie. There's some big-name centers, so popularity contest probably why. But people usually like the rookies. So sometimes the rookies will win the popularity contest if they're good enough, and I thought Humphrey was good enough, so that was an interesting one. Again, we can list off, I mentioned them throughout this, talked about a lot of linebackers, a lot of off-the-ball lights. There's so many good linebackers in the NFL, but there's just not enough spots in the Pro Bowl, so that's the tough part there. So, yeah, that's just wanted to talk about my major snubs, and then there is some flaws with how the Pro Bowl works, but there's some flaws of people having a long list of these guys should have made it, but forgetting you have to take guys out. And then there's some people that only watch this one guy. Do they watch that other guy that made it as much? Most of the time not, and it's just, that's how it is. It's okay. So, yeah, I just wanted to break this down since it's a hot topic right now. We got plenty of other content on the channel. Check it out. There's a lot of links pinned in the comments to recent videos, to our Twitter. Go check that out as well. Let me know your snubs. If you had to pick 5, let me know them in the comments. It'd be pretty cool to see that. But that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.